Hello, welcome back, everybody, to another year of the Sunday Podcast.
I'm Ollie Lam.
And I'm Matt Seddon.
Back in 2025 for our 5th season. You can expect more of this.
He's claiming that he was ill before the semi-final, whatever, but, you know, I just feel like at that point he was just looking for attention.
And some of this.
And you normally say, no human is limited, so I can't limit myself, or I can't just say I can do.
As well as event coverage around all the major races on the UK circuit.
And if you're a fan of the pod, please give us a rating and review on your preferred podcast streaming service.
And if you want to stay up to date with all the latest news, give us a follow on Instagram at Sunday Podcast.
As always, thanks for listening. See you next time. And we hope you enjoyed the episode.
Okay, welcome back, guys. Brought to you by sportshoes.com. As always, Europeans is well and truly finished now after a couple more days of exciting racing. And Matt and I obviously thought we'd kind of get into the nitty gritty of it and chat through the rest of those distance races. So we got men's and women's 800s and men's and women's 3,000 meters as well, mate. Where do you want to start?
We start with the Donny Ingebrigsten. We'll start with that men's 3,000 because I think Westy and Mills did everything he could. He ran very, very well. Didn't really put a foot wrong, to be honest. I mean, I guess there was a period where he was on the outside for quite a bit when they were running slow, just running in lane 2. Maybe he could have found the inside at some point, but then that causes problems. I think Westy could have finished higher up if he wasn't literally fighting Laros for 800 to a kept. I mean, Laros just kept leaning in on Westy. Like, I don't know how Westy kept his cool, constantly just having to just keep nudging Laros, just being like, hey, mate, I'm literally on the inside. You're going to push me off the track at this rate. Laros he didn't look good in the heats. He looked like he was struggling in the heats and he was knackered after the heats. And then obviously he majorly underperformed in the final, to be honest with you. So I don't know what's going on with him, whether he had bad preparation or what.
Yeah, I saw on Twitter, I think it was Jonathan Gould, I think that's how you pronounce it anyway, apologies if not. He said that he's been ill and that after the final, he was literally on the floor in the mix zone for 15, 20 minutes afterwards just because it took so much out of him. So I think he's been a bit unwell the past 10 days, I think you said. And so, yeah, that's the reason for that, obviously. But, mate, you make a good point about Westy. I thought it was interesting, though. Westy's obviously kept his cool in the interview afterwards as well, because he kind of said that, well, yeah, it's part of indoor racing. And if he hadn't been wasting energy, I say wasting energy, he kind of put it as if he hadn't been spending energy battling Laros, he wouldn't have been in that position, which means he'd have been too far away when it came to the end, so wouldn't have finished any higher ups. Yeah, I thought quite a mature response from him. And I think he's about right. Like, maybe he could have got one more spot.
Mm-hmm.
He said himself, the guys ahead of him, seriously world-class athletes, and the way they closed was supreme. But yeah, I think you're bang on, mate. I think they both had great races, Mills and West, and it's just exciting going forwards to see how they do. Because I think that, well, for sure Mills, but I think Westy has a massive chance now of running that standard if he can get himself in the right race and making that champs in the summer.
Yeah, I think one thing which is certainly going to excite, well, a lot of our 5K boys, but Westy especially is the 1310. Obviously, the kind of B standard that British Athletics have put out. I think there's a bit of a grace period there, for him. Whereas 13.0s and trying to break 13 is really, and it's more from a race point of view. Like, unless he can get himself in a one-off race or a Diamond League, it's challenging. But I think he'll be able to run that time. Well, he already has, of course, but he'll be able to box that off, fairly comfortably and actually be able to prepare for a championship. Looking at him yesterday, obviously Mills as well. I wouldn't mind betting we see both of those in the final. Well, definitely Mills, but I think Westy has the ability to make a world championship final. And we look at how deep. I think this was one of the deepest races of the weekend, the men's 3,000 actually. Just seeing that Jakob, Mills, Habs, Almgren. Obviously, you have the two Dutchmen in there as well, Laros and Nielsen. And whether Laros wasn't on his day or not, and then you got Koskinen who's run 7:30. I thought, you could argue there's probably one of the deepest fields.
Yeah, and even just obviously Jakob was dominant as per, but he wasn't. He had to work for it. Like Mills really made him work for it, and I think that shows the depth of the field that Jakob did have to kind of put some serious work in. I know at the end he pulled away quite comfortably, but he was having to really, really work on like that second to last lap for him and Mills to separate So relatively, I mean, compared to the 15, say, and I think that shows you the depth of the field.
Yeah, we'll never quite know how hard Jakob's working these days. Obviously, he just makes it look so easy. But I did actually feel like he did pull away from Mills relatively comfortably in that last lap. I think Mills ran amazing up till then. He's just got to find that last bit. But it's mad because, this is a generational talent that's competed, and, Mills could well be, two-time European champion already. But the fact he's having to go up against probably the best that's ever been the best that's ever been over 3,000, the best that's ever been over 5,000. It's a tough era to be in. But I was having this debate yesterday as well. But on the flip side, the fact Jakob exists has probably has helped Mills get to where he is as well. I think if Jakob doesn't exist, is Mills as good as he is? There's a kind of debate. That might be unfair to say, but I feel like Jakob has inspired and I guess educated a lot of people in the sport. And I think
his story certainly has, hasn't it? And just the way the races have changed, I think it's forced people to train in that way as well.
Exactly,
and to be prepared for quick races that go quick from far out. So yeah, I think you've got a decent point there, mate. And I don't think that's unfair to say. But yeah, it was a great race, wasn't it? Just overall, there was a bit of cat and mouse at the start. Westy did a good job of just making sure that he was at the front early on, and they kind of took quite close order of him as soon as he was at the front for the first lap or so. So it meant that Mills and Jakob didn't I guess play cat and mouse with each other at the back right at the start of the race for too long.
Yeah, and I think as well, it's kind of when Mills went to the front, I think that's when a lot of people, people are starting to see Mills as a serious threat on the kind of European and maybe global stage this summer as well. So they kind of took note when he went to the front. So, but yeah, I thought both our Brits did very, very well, and the future is bright with these two, heading into the next few years and potentially LA. I mean, I think a bit of confidence for them as well is Habs is 32. I think 31, 32. And obviously, he's coming into his best era. So I think definitely for someone like Westy, I would love to see him just attack the 5 for just another 4 years. I think he could be on the cusp of something very good if he just sort of, I mean, I'm sure he will, but it's basically just trying to stay injury free, isn't it? The next 3 or 4 years, because I think if you get an injury for an extended period of time in this game at their level over these distances, that's tough to come back from.
Yeah, I think so, man. And like we said earlier as well, there is that element of just getting in the right race. That he's at that real, I guess, unfortunate spot where some of the quick races they will go around 12:40 something, and it's just too quick. And then everything else, the kind of, I say easy ones, the easy ones to get in, you might be having to kind of win it in 13:05 and pulling away from a few guys. There's not many where everyone's sort of running 12:55 to 13:05. So it's that real tough level, but it's good. And I think hopefully, like you said, British athletics may be moving away from such an emphasis on the all-out qualifying times and the world rankings just becoming more and more influential. I think hopefully in the next few years, and certainly while Westy's still racing, we will see them scrap kind of qualifying times altogether or somewhere towards that so that we can have athletes just based off of their performances and getting in races, competing well, placing high. The sport's at a level where we're not going to be sending. I think that the issue of qualifying times historically had always been to make sure you don't send athletes who are literally going to be way out the back door. But no one who's ranked in top 30, top 40, whatever it is for each event is going to be in that position, even if they've run way slower, The way points work, it's just not.
I think that might be wishful thinking, to be honest. They spoke to, I don't know if you watched it, mate, just on the broadcast yesterday. They spoke to Paula Dunn. Obviously, what is she chair of basically selecting the teams, and she's kind of saying these 2 years, or she was alluding to the fact that basically the reason they've got such a deep squad is, one, they're going to have a very small squad probably come Worlds because of how tough those qualifying standards were. But then two, almost the next 2 years is when they're going to kind of give people an opportunity and start to really see kind of who they've got. And then it sounded like, the long-term plan is by the time 2027 hits, it's kind of then they're going to become very selective with their teams and start to go, right, you know, these are the people who are basically on that long list to qualify for the LA Games. And like, we're going to try and give them as much opportunity and exposure at the highest level. And kind of those, unless they can really break through and show they're world class, they won't be kind of opening the door for them at championships. That might be me reading into it too much, but it certainly sounded like that was a theme. So you're kind of thinking, well, actually those teams in 2027, you know, post, and I think it's a nice opportunity, right? Because you've got Worlds, they obviously released those B standards this year. You've then got Europeans, which is a massive opportunity in 2026, home turf, massive opportunity for a lot of, you know, kind of up and coming, developing athletes to compete for their spot, qualify for the Euros. But then in 2027, you know, you just go back to that Worlds and nothing else. And I think that will be a hard team to make.
Yeah, for sure. My point is more, I think you can prove you're world class without running necessarily a world class time. I think you should be able to anyway.
Yeah. That's a point. Yeah.
Like Westy's shown yesterday that he's
100%
one of the best in Europe.
Yeah.
So
yeah, definitely. So I think it's an exciting time. Certainly seemed like they were willing to really kind of give loads of athletes opportunities over the next 2 years, and I think that's a great time. And there's going to be lots of teams to make, you know, track, road, cross, etc. But then I think they are going to funnel things a little bit more come 2027. So, and obviously the Worlds team comes out this week, so we look forward to that. Who's actually going to World Indoors, and we'll start to see as well what other athletes are actually going to compete and toe the line in Nanjing. So that was the men's 3K. Koskeren ran exceptionally well. Obviously, we had him on the podcast as well. It's kind of him and Westy were battling hard against each other, and again, that was a little interesting battle. Sometimes they would make contact, and I would think, God, look at these two. He's like a training rep for them. You know, battling as well.
They were quite good though, weren't they? Because I kept seeing them make contact, but you could tell that they were teammates because it was almost like apologetic contact every single time. They weren't meaning it at all. And then they sort of kind of both separated, like tucked the arm in, which was nice to see. Because I think if that was Laros, I could have seen, Kostrom maybe just shoving it off the inside if he'd done that. But it was good to see from them, and like you say, so go check out that Kostrom pod if you haven't already. But mate, over to the women's. Obviously, another Irish athlete who was absolutely sublime was Sarah Healy, who took the win, waited till the last moment to pounce, and just pipped Melissa Courtney-Bryant on the line. I mean, we're going to try and get through this race and talk about how it went, but we missed the first 3.5 minutes due to some coverage issues, and unfortunately, we missed the fall as well. But fortunately, the athlete Costa is okay too. Yeah,
she is okay. She put up a post today as well. Sarah Healy didn't put a foot wrong. I mean, she just had such a clear run. I think that was the biggest thing. Melissa Courtney was on the shoulder for a large part of that race, and then obviously she kind of surged to the front and made her kick. And mate, Sarah Healy just looks so good when she runs as well. She looked so comfortable for a lot of that race, and you know, it was one of those ones where I think they were just both very, very evenly matched. Melissa Courtney's run, couple seconds, you know, marginally quicker than her over 3,000. If anything, Healy's probably a little sharper over the 1,500 right now. And I think had it have been Courtney on the shoulder of Healy, she may have been able to beat her. You know, it was very close on the line in the end. So I think you're looking at it like, if Courtney was sitting in third for a large part of that race and then Healy makes a move, I think Courtney could have overcome her and won. But she was just unfortunate. I guess that was the game plan, but she found herself at the front and she just didn't have enough to go to attack it off that last turn. And you just weren't going to shake Healy, to be honest, especially how, you know, it was very modest for a large part of the race, and you just weren't going to shift her.
Yeah, I think as well, like, you got to remember that Millie Courtney-Bryant has come into this having not raced since New Balance.
Yeah, that cost her probably as well.
Yeah, and like the margin she lost by, you've got to think if she'd had a run out of the British Champs, had she jumped in, like you say, 1,500, like Sarah Healy has, that margin then doesn't exist. And I think the fact that she came second and so close to the win, considering she hasn't raced, and if she didn't race the British Champs, we know she didn't race the British Champs. So if you're not well enough to do that, she's clearly in some sort of bother past few weeks. Pulled out of another race as well. I can't remember which one.
Yeah, she's had a niggle, right?
Yeah, so to come second in the Europeans, I know she'll be disappointed with that, how she opened up, but still a great result. And I think, well, Sarah Healy's going to go to the World Indoors and certainly be confident. Like you say, mate, we'll see if Millie Courtney Bryant's on that team, and if she is, why not? Like she can go and translate a medal at Europeans to medal on the world stage as well, if she can like keep herself healthy and then she get sharper again, because the time she ran at the start of the season, and she's clearly in decent shape still, puts her well in contention.
Yeah, definitely. I think, I don't like to always, call on altitude, but I think what is difficult for these athletes is, they're quite far removed from these altitude camps they've been on in January now, and the way these championships work, you probably haven't got time you had to come back for your national championships. You then got Europeans, and now you've got 2 weeks, and you probably haven't got time to get back up there because, the Worlds is in Nanjing, so you got to get over to there. That's a big travel in itself. So actually, maybe there is a little bit of that where athletes are just, not running out of steam a little bit. Of course, they can hold their level for a while, but that 8:28 shape that Millie Courtney Bryant was in, that was probably coming off quite an aerobic base. Do you know what I mean? And so she probably had her fitness was probably a little bit higher. And, that, especially if you've had a little niggle, that's going to be hard. She's lost a little bit of that now, and that's going to be hard to kind of top up and rebuild in these 2 weeks. So if I was looking at it, I'd be like, I don't know how she's going to kind of really be able to step it up again in 2 weeks' time, but might be proven wrong.
Yeah, I don't think you can like so much like physiologically in terms of like she's not gonna go and run necessarily quicker than she did at New Balance.
But
in terms of like
she needs to be in that shape, I think, anyway, because these, on the world stage, you get in those Ethiopians, and yeah, these women are just monsters.
For sure. But it depends how the race goes, right?
And the Americans can kick like crazy. Yeah, I think it'll be difficult. Although she's run very, very fast, I think it's going to be difficult for her to medal at the World Championships. Sarah Healy, on the other hand, I'm just thinking tactically, didn't put her foot wrong. And then you talk about psychologically getting a lot stronger, mate. Well, that's a huge confidence boost for her coming off the back of this win. She's going to feel like she could challenge for a medal now at Worlds. And yeah, I thought she's the real deal, Sarah Healy. And I wonder whether we'll ever see her in the 5K in the summer, or this will just be a case of just an indoor thing and definitely back down to those 1500s and how she operates over them. But Hannah Nuttall, I thought, ran again similar to, well, and Inez as well, both of those, but similar to Westy Nuttall. Like for a large part of her race, she was at the back of that group of 4 or 5, and she was just constantly just like, you could see she would there would be a surge at the front, she would have to accelerate onto the back of them, but then there was nowhere to go. There was never anywhere for her to go, and she was not going to go wide because she would have had to go into lane 3. She did so much surging. And I look at it and I'm like, the 6th place finish, I feel like is probably worth a lot more for Hannah Nuttall. She just couldn't get it out on paper. She found herself at the back of that pack with a K to run or whatever. And yeah, was just never going to be able to find a way through. But I thought it very, very promising signs for the summer.
Yeah, agreed, mate. And I think it's just a learning curve for a lot of these athletes in terms of indoors, because outdoors, you really can afford to be further back and kick from further back. But you saw so many athletes like moving out and trying to move through and then going backwards because they realize that they're running kind of on an angle, or the turns coming up, and they just can't like kind of put the speed down onto the tracks.
Yeah,
it was good though, and it is. Me and you were saying this last week, mate. Like kind of looking forward to the champs. It's why indoor championships are so entertaining. Because there's so much going on, there's so much at play, and yeah, I think it's good lessons for the athletes, and I think it is promising as well, because outdoors in terms of a race, it's a bit more true run, and I think Nuttall as well find herself potentially on a team in the summer.
Yeah, definitely. It is a bloody good watch, and what was a good watch is those 800s, man. Crestan was beast, just taking out, 25-1 indoors. Talk about those banks. I was like, flipping hell. That was impressive. Just that alone, to be honest. But they held it together, we don't see many 144s indoors. And to see it in a championship, the end of 3 rounds, it was good. And look, he's another one we talked about. If Courtney Bryant and Healy's positions were switched in that race, Courtney Bryant might come out on top. Crestan put himself at the front. He dragged it round, and Chapel had so much to run for. Home crowd, kind of new man on the block, and Crestan was just a perfect pacer for him in the end. And had it been reversed, I think Crestan would have come out on top.
Yeah, perhaps, but I think that the race is then run completely differently if he doesn't do that. So,
well, this is what I'm saying. I'm just saying if the race was exactly the same and it was Chapel who was leading, but that's maybe an obvious thing. But yeah, that was a good watch, that men's 800. And it was a very, very high standard and job done. And that was a nice gold for the Dutch, who, by the way, topped the medal table as well, as you might expect. A lot of their medals, though, come in the 4x4. So not as not as good as you initially. When you see like 9 medals, you're like, oh, blind.
Yeah.
3 of their golds were in the 4x4. So, but mate, the women's 800, Jesus Christ. Yeah, obviously we didn't really, both 800s, we didn't have I was watching, obviously you're not rooting for anyone, you're just kind of watching it all unfold, and it's quite a nice position to be in. It's sort of just seeing who makes moves, and I feel like you soak up the race a bit more, is when you have that one person you're watching, you kind of miss a lot of the other moves and stuff that are happening. But yeah, the women's 800 was just chaos, and Velgosh in the end, classy run. Talk about sort of getting to the front and just ignoring all the chaos behind her. Because there was a lot.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. And I think that's the thing with these 800s. It's so unfortunate that we couldn't get at least a Brit into the final, because I think it just shows you that on the day, if you can get yourself in the final, particularly indoors, that anything really can happen, because we had obviously a fall in the women's 8 and further back, and things like that can just mean that you're basically in that women's 8, the 4 athletes, there's essentially 4 athletes who kind of all wound up in contention for medals, and then you can just find yourself, you can come off the turn, people are falling all around you, and you can be like, oh, there's a medal right there for me, kind of out of nowhere. So I think, yeah, it'll be great to get some Brits in there in the future, but I think it'll be, just a great experience for the guys and girls who did go out anyway. But yeah, mate, the tough races out there in the men's and women's, and I think it was just the smartest racers who could just stay out of trouble that came out on top.
Yeah, one thing I was impressed about Vilgosh, I think she ran a 29 low last. I think they ran a 58 high, 59 low last lap, and don't often see that off a tactical pace. A big negative split, and especially the last 200, almost the quickest of. I think the last 200 might have been the quickest of the whole race. They were 29 point for the first 2, but then 29 low, she was 29.1 or something for the last 200. That's impressive in 800, because that is nicely difficult to do. Because of that lactic. And I hate to sort of bring up the age thing again, because it is no barrier, but it is just, Vilgosh is 31, and to be sort of winning a European title over the 800 is very impressive.
Yeah, I think they were saying it's the first
since 1980, right?
Yeah, something like that, or a long time.
1986, yeah.
Yeah,
first Polish gold. Yeah, we think about Lewandowski was, remember him in 2019 beating Jakob, that was it. Took Lewandowski to beat Jakob at European champs, and no one's ever done it since.
Yeah, there you go. And just goes to tacticians, right? Tacticians winning.
Yeah. So, Euros was a really good watch, and it was good to see such a big team. Obviously, we didn't have any finalists in the men's or women's 800, but then we had a lot of big names missing, and I think it was good that these athletes were actually able to go to that championships. Because this summer, bar the under-23s, there's very little we have so many athletes on the cusp of, let's call it European level, but obviously that world level up is just, it's going to take a lot of these guys and girls maybe a year or 2 to start being able to challenge for those world qualifying times.
It's also great for them, in terms of the time they have, because it's the start of a new cycle. We're starting to see new names, as well as names who are trying to make their 2nd, 3rd Olympics.
Yeah.
And so that's why there is such a big pool. And I almost think that the closer you get to the Olympics, I guess that is quite obvious, but the pool is just a lot smaller, isn't it? Because people are either thinking, okay, well, nah, I'm going to retire because there's no chance, or you're just not talking about them. But right now, if you wanted to predict a team for LA, it'd be so hard to do.
Extremely difficult. We were having that conversation about Whiteman the other day. So yeah, man, there was obviously the Europeans, but there was a lot else which went on the weekend. Inter-counties went down. So yeah, shout out to Brett Rushman, Kingston second there. no, the Inter-County, impressive run from him, and a few rumours he'd been gunning for it as well, that Inter-Counties win. So, yeah, congrats. And it's coached by Andy Hobdell as well. So congrats to Coach Hobdell. Another good result for him this winter. It looked like, crowds look good as well. You know, the live stream was pretty good. Crowds look good. Yeah, the Inter-Counties,
back. Is the Inter-Counties back?
I think I was going to say it's just a bit late, isn't it? And I think, again, when we talk about, things suffering with fixture clashes, sort of takes the obviously Nationals clash with British indoors, and then obviously Inter-Counties clashing with European indoors, and that is very much where the shine is at the moment in this sport, is kind of indoors. And I think it's only been getting bigger as people have been taking the indoor season more seriously, where they try and get qualifying times as well. So yeah, if they can maybe just, again, we keep saying about the World Cross next year, can you push the Inter-Counties forward and really shake up the fixture list? Do we need to have our county champs to the first weekend of January every year and stuff like that? So we'll see what happens. But on the women's side as well, Jess Gibbon dominates once again, 30-odd second winning margin. George Taylor-Brown in second, which was sort of, because obviously Nationals, she didn't enjoy the mud, and it was much, much firmer at the Inter-Counties. Looked like some lovely golf course-esque grass from what I
go that far.
I wasn't there, yeah. And then Sophie Tava in third. It's your 1, 2, 3 at the Inter-Counties, mate. And then, I'm going to be at Podium Festival on Saturday, so look forward to that and see everyone there. I mean, the fields are stacked. They've got double the entries they had last year, pretty much. And what they've done is they've just buffed out the races, whereas last year they had about 60 in each race. They've got 120 odd athletes in each race. It's going to be chaos, but it's going to be amazing. Every brand under the sun is going to be there as well. The weather's looking good, so hopefully we can get people sort of parked. This is what Barnsley said to me, people parked up on the grass, just a real atmosphere kind of building. Last year the weather was appalling, but if the weather's good, we should see some fast times and just lots of people hanging around having a good time. So, yeah, mate, I'm getting the bucket hat out, getting ready for the festival this weekend.
So yeah, that's the message then. Make sure you go annoy Matt if you see him. He always appreciates that, don't you, mate?
Absolutely, mate. Absolutely. It's going to be a big stint. I think the races get started at about 1 o'clock and wraps up by about 7, 8 o'clock, I think. So serious. And they got the handicap mile as well, which is obviously coming back. I think I've obviously mentioned before. So replicating what happened on New Year's Eve, and it's going to go down in Leicester as well. So yeah, we'll be back with probably just an episode. Obviously that Worlds team is being released this week, so look out for that, and we'll be back with an episode on the weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. So thanks for listening to us as always, and we'll catch you on Sunday, guys.